You're watching Cartell TV and I'm Simone. Now, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button.
Mercedes Benz in Australia finally has an all-electric car that the general public can buy.
Okay, so maybe just a cashed up general public. It's called the Mercedes Benz EQC, and as you can see, it's an SUV as well as being a proper luxury electric vehicle.
It's usually pitted against the Model X, much like any electric car would be pitted against a corresponding Tesla model.
But the EQC is still very different and it doesn't try to follow the Model X in all aspects.
Instead, Mercedes chose to make a car at their own pace and level, which means it's better than the Model X in some aspects and might need to catch up in some others.
So, let me tell you all about it.
In terms of looks, the overall shape draws on the GLC, and that's a good thing. The EQC is sleek and stylish, and if you like the general styling direction of Mercedes-Benz vehicles nowadays, you'll also like the EQC.
There's no special quirky design language for the electric range, and I have to say I am so happy that that's dying out.
Some of them were just so terrible, all for the sake of being different. It should always be different in a good way.
Anyway, back to the EQC. Aside from the general shape and the features adapted from the dead dinosaur fuel versions, it's a joke. Leave those keyboards alone.
The EQC also features things like these special wheels that are designed to reduce drag, and this section at the front that lets the air flow through, further reducing drag.
The front looks pretty unique while still appearing like a normal car.
You have the big grille with the large badge, you have the complementing headlights, and these subtle creases on the bonnet to emphasise the design of the grille and headlights.
And I love the front bumper. It's a great mix of elegance, sportiness and style.
It wouldn't look out of place on a sports car or on a luxury sedan. Another thing I like is the fact that there are no fake exhaust tips.
Now, while I don't share the obsession of some of my colleagues for fake exhaust tips, which can be found on many vehicles with actual engines that produce exhaust gases.
Come on people, it's really just a styling exercise and it's been that for a long time.
I have to say that I like the fact they have shunned them completely on electric vehicles.
2 electric motors power the EQC, adding up to the total of 300 kilowatts of power and a mountain-moving 760 newton meters of torque. This electric SUV reaches 100 in a notch above 5 seconds. The official range stands at 434 kilometres.
In reality, the driving conditions and style play a really big role, in fact bigger than in some other EVs we've driven. So I wouldn't be surprised if a really careful drive actually delivered more than that.
However, a more carefree way of driving, without really cutting corners as such, but with some addictive acceleration attempts that were a tad more aggressive than the conditions really required, showed us a confident range of around 340 kilometres.
Now, you can charge it in a number of ways, including, now let me quote this,
free and unlimited fast charging for the first 5 years of ownership at ChargeFox.
They also announced a national network of ultra-rapid charging stations.
It'll add around 20 ultra-rapid charging sites strategically located to assist drivers commuting between Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. This really shows that Mercedes is serious about this here, not only because of the financial investments, but also because such strategic infrastructure means electric cars will become more practical than they are now. Which means more people will buy them. Which means more companies will introduce them here. Which means infrastructure will grow. Which means we may finally see some proper incentives from the government in this respect. You get the picture. It's rare that Mercedes does anything without great insight and proper planning. It also shows another thing, and that's the fact that the range is not really class leading, so they present us with these plans to reduce range anxiety, and it's working. Here's a list of the available charging options for the EQC and the rate at which they add to the range.
The EQC's motors work like a charm.
The front one is employed all the time and the rear one jumps in when it decides it needs to, but the transition is completely seamless.
I really love acceleration. It's just so effortless, pretty much like on all electric performance vehicles.
That torque is amazing, and the instant delivery is one of the features that make people fall in love with electric cars. Just step on the accelerator pedal and it takes off.
Overtaking is really easy, and merging onto motorways is even easier because you're not starting from a standstill.
So that weight doesn't play a big role even for that initial second or two. In short, in terms of power, the only complaint you may have is on the track, as the top speed is under 200 kilometres per hour. On the other hand, if you're buying a track car, try not to make it a tanker-weight SUV.
Aside from that, the push is ample, readily available, and you know what? Lots of fun. But I still get people ask me,
but are electric cars as fast as petrol cars?
And to those people I say, drive one, or at least be a passenger in one, and prepare to have mind blown.
As in some other electric cars, you have these things that look like paddle shifters, but they actually define how hard regenerative braking works.
I first saw these in the Hyundai Ioniq, and you know what? The setup is so efficient that most of the time you don't even need to use your regular brakes.
For driving around in the city, this is a great thing. Not only do you save your brakes, but you also add energy to your battery.
In the city, we brake more often, and it's usually harder than on the open road.
You know, there's 300 metres between two traffic lights. Most of us will accelerate to a proper city driving speed and then brake to stop.
If you don't do this and you creep up slowly for 300 metres, you could be the cause of some real road rage. Rightfully so.
But there's also an automatic mode for this, in which the computer combines the information from the sat-nav, various radars, cameras and sensors, and decides for you how hard regen braking should be.
Now, it may sound like this may bring more anxiety than benefits, and yes, you should pay proper driving attention while this mode is in operation. But I have to say it worked pretty well during our tests.
One of the things I loved was how efficient it was at making the best use of downhill driving without going too far with braking.
I should also tell you that the eco mode kind of dulls the car. Don't get me wrong, it's not terribly bad, but it just doesn't feel like the rocket that the EQC is in other modes.
Expectedly, the battery is in the floor, which puts the heavy part as low as possible, lowering the centre of gravity and improving handling.
The added weight and the really good suspension setup make the EQC sail over bumps and undulations.
Comfort is at a really high level, which is a great feature for some of our roads. However, I do have to say that the car weighs more than 2,400 kilograms.
That's a lot of weight. Now, while it does make the performance figures all the more astonishing, I have to say that it's impossible to not feel all that weight when you're going hard around corners.
And the batteries are a big part of that weight, more than half a tonne, so that low placement is a great idea.
I should also tell you that the rear suspension is a self-levelling air setup.
Much like on many generations of the E-Class wagons, where it was employed to keep the car level when you pack the boot to the brim.
On the inside, the EQC once again borrows from other Mercedes Benz vehicles, but it adds a bit of a unique touch.
Two 10.25-inch screens sit side by side, adding up to a pretty long strip of screens right in front of the driver.
They're both awesome, and they have no cover, so it makes the interior feel more spacious and airy.
Design of the layout is great. The quality is what you'd expect, and the responsiveness of the touchscreen is top-notch. MBUX augmented reality for navigation costs $900 extra, but geez, it just looks awesome. The steering wheel is unmistakably Mercedes, not only due to the badge in the middle, but also because it looks like those in the internal combustion engine models, and it also shares their functionality. The interior has these blue accents sprinkled around the cabin to denote its eco-friendly nature, and the central air vents greatly differ from those in the GLC.
I generally love the angled swaying centre console in Mercedes-Benz vehicles, and it looks great and feels great here too.
Of course, you get the standard controls, including the touchpad, and the space and driving position are really good.
Let's be honest, all of these things were expected.
Stepping into the back, and you can see there is really enough space, especially if you have two adults here.
Legroom is awesome, as is headroom, thanks to this head groove. And speaking of groove, with the surround sound speakers and this coloured strip lighting, it's really a mood back here. It's like being in a nightclub.
More than enough for us normally sized humans.
What I love here is the knee angle. In many cars with batteries, and even some without batteries, the seat's too low and too close to the floor, and it makes your knees go pretty high up. But not here.
The batteries are in the floor, but the seat is of perfect height. You get around 500 litres of cargo space, which is not really astonishing. It's not small, don't get me wrong, but it's far from class leading. Fold the second row and you get 1,460 litres of space. Now, I'll tell you something that you may not like. You see, Tesla sets benchmarks in the EV world for a number of reasons. For example, you can charge some of the latest Tesla models faster than the EQC, quite a bit faster. Aside from the current industry standard safety features, the EQC also has some special safety features for this kind of a vehicle. For example, the battery is surrounded by a robust frame with an integral crash structure. Deformation elements are installed between the frame and the battery, and these are able to absorb additional forces in the event of a severe side impact. A battery guard in the front area of the battery is able to prevent the energy storage unit from being pierced by foreign objects. And the high voltage system can also be shut down automatically in a crash depending on its severity. Mercedes also says that the EQC is fitted with a lithium-ion battery pack and comes with an 8-year, 160,000 kilometre warranty, while a 3-year unlimited kilometre vehicle warranty applies to all other items, of course, with annual servicing intervals. Owners may specify a cost-effective maintenance package or wear and tear package as an option when purchasing, or they can take a 3-year capped price servicing.
So how much is it for all of this?
The manufacturer's recommended retail price is at almost $140,000 and it includes GST but not on roads.
So is it worth it? With that price tag, you need to want this kind of a car. And if you do, then yes, it's worth it.
And if you don't do cross-country runs very often, you don't even have to wait for the infrastructure to be built.
Sure, I feel the range anxiety in all EVs, but in all honesty, 400 kilometres per charge is more than enough for anything besides long trips.
That means it's elegant, performs well, even more than well in this case. It's packed with equipment, it's practical, and it's deservedly confident.
If I had to describe it in one sentence, that would be it. It's a proper Mercedes Benz with a buzz. Thanks for watching Cartel TV. Now, I have loved driving the all-electric Mercedes this week, but I'm curious to see what you Mercedes lovers out there think of it. Let us know in the comments below, and you'll see me in my next video.